Welcome back. Mayor Tashara Jones just last week admitted flaws in the way the St. Louis Development Corporation awarded tens of millions of dollars worth of federal grants to North City businesses. Now those grant awards are under internal review and a state audit to boot. House Democrat Steve Butz is now on the record. Thank you for joining us. You know, a lot of people in North City were passing petitions trying to persuade the auditor to come out and investigate these federal funds that are going through the St. Louis Development Corporation, but you had something of a trump card.
Yeah, no pun intended there, I hope so.
No.
Mark, nice to be on the show, but I'll say, sure, one of the advantages of being in the legislature for the past 6 years and building some relationships when you need to get through to someone that could help with an issue in the city or statewide, you can do that. So I was able to put in a call and get an appointment with the state auditor's office.
Now, elephant in the room here. You're a Democrat.
I am.
The state auditor is a Republican. Do you trust him to handle this on an even keel and give a nonpartisan review of what's going on here?
I do. In particular, Auditor Fitzpatrick has a stellar reputation in Jeff City, both sides of the aisle. I don't think you'll have anybody giving you any trouble on that issue. And the auditor's office, historically, is when they're doing their official function, it's nonpartisan. So,
can you make the argument that having cops on the beat, as it were, these auditors coming in, can alter behavior during the distribution of these funds?
During the distribution, I certainly hope so, and I think it has already proven to be so. So Neil Richardson has said, you know, there's a pause. We're going to double check, triple check these grants, for example, in this one program that we're talking about here. But sure, I think that's the whole point of having the audit.
You use the word pause, and to some people's ears at City Hall, that's a painful word these days because time is ticking. There's a short runway to get these federal funds out the door and into neighborhoods. Do you have any concern that bringing an auditor in at this stage could further delay the delivery of these funds?
No, because I want that money to be properly spent. I can't imagine it being spent in an irresponsible manner, not being used where it's most needed. I'm sure I know the clock's ticking, but holy cow, I mean, this clock's been ticking for a couple of years. There's no surprise here. So how we can be getting into the 11th hour kind of surprises me on the first hand, but there is time to get it done right. And I think it's important to the taxpayers and the people of North St. Louis to make sure it is done properly.
What is your current understanding of the vetting process that existed or did not properly exist as the funds were being awarded in the first round?
Yeah, my current understanding, again, I have no inside baseball info here, but there was a third-party vendor, and I believe the name was Grow USA, that was awarded a contract by SLDC to help them implement these grants. I think this is a grant program that SLDC was not set up for. This is a huge amount of money. It's never happened before. It should be transformational money. And clearly one of the issues was this vendor, Grow USA, improperly doing their work.
I don't know that a vendor like that could have necessarily been in a position to do that had it always stayed within government, had government been the one doing the vetting. And outsourcing it, they kind of outsourced the accountability factor too.
I had emailed Neil Richardson. He answered back, and I just mentioned that as one of my points from a personal level. When you lead an organization, to deflect blame because of a third-party vendor that you hired, I think that rings shallow in most people's ears.
Do you agree, and do you buy at face value, the claim that Neil Richardson and Mayor Tashara Jones are making before the business community just last week, that the legal and the compliance metrics of this grant program are unaffected?
You know, I was at that luncheon where the speeches were given by both the mayor and Neil Richardson, and I would say that rang hollow to me. I did not think that to be true. I think it is going to be affected.
A little straight talk here. You're from South City.
I am, my whole life.
This program is solely intended for North City.
Yeah.
What's your interest in North City?
I'm a member of the legislature. I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. I don't consider myself a South St. Louisan. I consider myself a St. Louisan. Anything that improves the life, health, wealth, well-being in North St. Louis benefits all of us in the city.
So you want the funds to be spent there?
I do. It's If you look around St. Louis, where is the greatest need? Clearly it's there. Are there parts, even in my district, like Dutchtown, for example, or Bevo? Sure, we've got challenges too, but for this program and this amount of money, there will be money spent all over the city. But this was a stimulus grant program specific for small businesses in North St. Louis.
And is it better to have this endowment fund City Hall is talking about now that sort of opens the tap with a slow trickle?
So I'm going to go with use the invested interest for a longer term plan. And I think this case proves it pretty well. This is a $37 million grant program, nothing like what we're talking about with the Rams money. And we've stubbed our toe badly on this program. So to hurry up and spend the kind of money we're talking with the Rams money, I think would be a mistake.
I don't know that you would put yourself in political league with the progressive reformer Megan Green, who's the president of the Board of Aldermen, but she had an interesting comment just this week in talking about how to divvy up these Rams funds. She turned to a head of a big business group, the Greater St. Louis Inc., and said, what about you guys? I'll give you an example. In Detroit, Dan Gilbert and a lot of big finance guys pitched in a ton of money to help spark that city's comeback, and it's working. To what degree should the St. Louis business community partner up and not just go off on their own tangent, their own offshoot, but partner up truly and put money into a big endowment fund or put money into a collective pot and say, we're all going to do this together? Should that happen?
It should, absolutely.
To what degree?
Much more than we've ever done heretofore. You know, one thing, I'm a lifelong St. Louisan, and if I know there's one thing that we consistently do poorly, that's work together. And maybe there was a time when the city was so big we could go our own way, but that is no longer the case. And we've got one shot. I don't want to say it's the last shot for the city of St. Louis to have a real renaissance, but this is certainly part of it. And without leadership from the business community, and we've lost a lot of our really large corporate headquarters, and we've become more of a regional town, which is fine, but we can build from the strengths we do have, and there are many.
I wish we had more time. He's House Democrat Steve Butz, the state representative, in his maiden voyage here on the record. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark. It was a pleasure.